in Netflix, but this caught my attention, mainly because it talks about innovation and a lot of things about the startup community. Now, let me tell you, if you are still watching it or you're about to watch it, you're in it for a treat. I am sure you're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, you're gonna enjoy it. Now, as for me, I am definitely torn between Mr. Hen and Dosan. I don't know, I still haven't made up my mind, but who knows? I might let you know towards the end of this video on who I truly choose. By the way, I'm Cherryanne. I am also a startup founder, and I can truly relate with this startup series. As I watch the series, I can't help but wonder if everybody is familiar with the differences of a startup, small business, and a corporate entity. Well, there's quite a few differences, so let's tackle that. The term startup refers to a very young company that's in its early stages. Typically, it's composed of one or more founders. These founders typically is trying to solve an existing problem with a new process using a new innovation and new technology. Most often, these companies require a huge sum of capital to be able to scale faster. This is why it's important to go on several funding rounds through angel investors, venture capitalists, and other types of investors. Here are a few characteristics of a startup company. First is that it is software and tech related. What does that mean? It really means that once the technology is done, a lot of customers use it, but it does not require the same amount or a proportionate amount of employees to run that product or technology. The second characteristic is that it replaces a manual process using the technology and innovation. Third is that these startup companies aim to scale fast. Scaling means we want to expand the business faster than small, medium businesses. Now, let's talk about small businesses. Typically, these are privately owned and under sole proprietorship or partnership. Now, here are the characteristics of a small business. First is that it requires a lot of employees to be able to scale. Second is that most of these owners use their own money for funding. Third is they typically have thinner margins and slower growth. Now, I don't want to add to your confusion, but let's talk about corporations. These are more mature companies who's been in the business for a while. They're more structured, more formal, and a little bit slow-moving than startups. To easily understand the difference in structure, here are examples of org charts between a startup, small business, and a bigger corporation. As you can see, a startup org chart is a little bit more fluid than the others. There's no specific rules on the different titles, and there's really no rules in the hierarchy. For small businesses, as you can see, there's fewer employees on board, and the CEO could also be handling multiple positions in the company. Now, for bigger corporations, it's a little bit more robust and really more structured. There are also more departments in a bigger corporation than a small business or even than of a startup. You're probably going to hear me several times that it's not easy running a startup companies. And I'll share with you some of the biggest challenges in a startup. First, oh my God, the limited resources. When you're starting, you really start from scratch and literally from zero. When I say resources, it's very, very broad. From financial resources to manpower and even time. Knowing what to do. No matter how good you are, running a startup from scratch is just a lot of stuff. This is why you need to have the right co-founders with you who have specific skills to help you along the way. Another challenge is hiring the right talent. A startup and big corporations are totally different. Like what I said, they are more structured. Some employees are just not cut out for chaos in a startup environment, and they prefer a more structured environment in a corporation. Sometimes you'll get great talent that are just not the right fit for a startup environment. Finding the right idea sounds easy, but it's really not. You might have a lot of ideas. The thing is, these ideas might not really be solving a problem that the community needs. Now, once you come up with a great idea, the next thing is conveying that to your employees and convincing the customers that it's what they need. Lastly, attracting buyers are not easy, especially when you're from a startup company. Most consumers trust companies who've been around longer than you have. So you gotta have a compelling reason as to why a consumer would choose you, a startup, a new company with a new product over an existing brand who's been there for a while. So be ready to really fight for your passion and for your dream, no matter how limited your resources are. Now that we've talked about the differences between a startup company, small medium companies, and corporate companies, on episode 2, let's talk about the different startup terminologies and jargons to help you understand the Netflix startup series even better and to truly understand what's happening in the culture and the environment of a startup company.